Uh,
What's up?
for everybody else here, guys, I sent them my information. I'm not doing well, as you probably heard or can tell. I'm gonna go off camera so that I can mic on, mic off. Hi, guys.
Feel better, buddy? Maybe don't be in the garage. So yeah, man, we're talking about XDC. Before we start, obviously there's 170 people in here. Thank you for being here. This is Utility Unlocked, right? And we're going to be talking about XDC. And before we say anything about it, I just want to commend Bully on what you're doing, man. You're going to get side eyes and questions about things, but how you treat people is the only currency that matters, even though we talk about all these different types of cryptocurrencies. So it's a good thing, and I'm glad that you got all the right people involved. You know, Money Talks knows what she's talking about. You do, well, Wadi, all these guys. So it's good to see you guys doing that. I
Bully,
appreciate it.
I will 100% second that. What you're doing is fantastic and noble. And I'm glad that you are wearing that you guys are gonna. I can't talk. Awareness. That's what I meant.
For sure. And
Thank you.
if anyone has got questions about what you just went through and what you saw, I mean, for me, there's several websites that you can go to when reporting this kind of stuff, um, and you just can't trust anything and everything that you see on the internet. So you have to. It's always best to have a guide or somebody that knows what's going on. But yeah, sucks. I hate hearing stuff like that. It's obviously not the first time I've heard it, having been here for a while. So just kudos to you guys.
I will just say, I want to say thank you to the community, for everyone that is willing to take a part of this journey. I know that it happens all the time, and that there are individuals that got yanked for much more. But we ultimately can't help everyone, and I felt I was in a position that I could. Um, I mean, I don't make much money from the lives, but whatever I do, I'm willing to donate to him and his family. There are other generous content creators out there that are willing to match that. I will show the receipts. So every dollar that is donated to my live for the next week will be donated to Ray and his family. But besides the money, I just feel that my biggest blessing that I think I can offer him is just a platform to come on and to speak, and hopefully I can lead him to other content creators, and they can also spread awareness of his situation. I mean, I earlier in my live, maybe about an hour ago, I was going through the messages of the psychological aspect of how these scammers are speaking to him, and then I would go through it, but neither here nor there. Guys, I want to thank you guys so much for being here for, I don't know, guys, what episode is this? Episode 6 of Utility Unlocked. Tonight we are focusing on XDC, and I'm kind of excited for this one as well.
Yeah, big time. So this was again voted on by the community, people that showed up here and have been showing up here for the last several weeks. We appreciate it. This is an interactive conversation. We want you to ask questions. We don't really prepare as a group. We prepare individually so that this way it's not just three talking heads saying the same exact thing. We're going to have our own spins on it. So feel free to answer questions. And at the end, we're going to do a vote on what we'll do the following week. So, Bill, if you want to take it away, or
Sure, yeah. If I may, XDC is primarily focused on a couple of things, but I think the biggest thing that attracts me is trade finance. So to understand the utility, we have to understand what it is that they're solving. Well, trade finance is the system that allows companies in all different countries to safely buy and sell goods. So every time that something's manufactured in one country and shipped to another country, there is a huge financial process that's happening in the background to make sure that the seller gets paid and the buyer actually receives the item that they purchased. And that system of trade finance, they move trillions of dollars every single year. And it's still backed by banks and paperwork, right? A lot of people don't hear much about trade finance because it's hidden behind banks and paperwork. So XDC was created to modernize that system, and they're using it, blockchain technology. So as of right now, TradeFinex still relies heavily on paper documents, emails, PDFs, and manual verification. The banks also have to trust the invoices, the shipping documents, and the guarantees of these transactions. These guarantees could take weeks to actually confirm. So because of this, the payments could take anywhere from 30 to 120 days to settle. So TradeFinex is a huge friction point that we have in our real world. So XDC is coming in to solve a little bit about that. And I think that the biggest ones that are suffering from the inefficiencies of TradeFinex is the small and medium enterprise businesses. Those are the ones that are usually suffering the most because they can't actually get the financing. Because a lot of the banks, they view trade financing as high risk. Or a lot of times those documents, because a lot of them are still done by paper, they view those documentations as unverifiable or unreliable. And the World Economic even talks about they even talk about trade finance, that there's a massive gap in there, right? They're saying that where it needs to be in terms of its current day is lacking behind exactly where it should be. So XDC basically exists to kind of close that gap, and they are digitizing trade documents, and they're making this easier to verify finance as well as settle. That's a little bit of history of why they exist. Change, is there anything you'd like to include before I go into what does XDC actually do?
The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, so XDC, guys, it's not trying to be like a PayPal or a Venmo, right? It's not just about sending money from one person to another, peer-to-peer or bank-to-bank. XDC is trying to take trade documents and turn that into digital assets, right? And these trade documents can be anything from invoices to purchase orders, and they're doing that all on the blockchain. And once those documentations become digital, the banks can verify them instantly. And that instant verification automatically decreases the risk because they can now, since the risk is lower, they can offer that financing much faster, much cheaper. I said before that it was anywhere between 30 days to 120 days. So they can, by digitizing that documentation, it reduces the risk, and then they can make the financing much cheaper and much faster. So instead of suppliers waiting 2 to 3 months to get paid, they can get financing much sooner. And that in and of itself is going to improve the cash flow. That's going to help businesses survive with longevity. And that is also going to make global trade much more efficient. So if we take a look at XDC, right? We have an average block time of 2.3. I don't even know what this is. That's a big ass number. 30,000 smart contracts is 2.1 total million addresses. And they do solve a multitude of other things, right? So XDC is a pioneering blockchain platform tailored to meet the evolving needs of DeFi and global trade, right? Unparalleled speed, scalability, and cost efficiency, XDC Network has become the go-to choice for developing, creating decentralized applications or dApps, and for users looking to engage in the next generation of financial and trade ecosystems. So some of the benefits of XDC we see here is compatibility with the Ethereum ecosystem, right? Global trade and financial focus. They have a strong ecosystem support, right? Thriving DeFi, right? Community chosen. And there's a lot of other things that they do, but here are some of the other use cases, right? DeFi. XDC Network serves as a hub for DeFi activities, offering users access to broad spectrum of financial projects and services. Trade finance and tokenization. Yes, they are heavy on trying to integrate in with tokenization. Decentralized applications. Developers can build and deploy a variety of dApps on the XDC networks, leveraging its scalability infrastructure, low transaction costs, and compatibility with the Ethereum ecosystem. Supply chain management, blockchain, and AI integration. Do you want to interrupt me, or should I kind of continue?
You're doing a good overview, and then we can kind of talk about partnerships. Obviously, we look at some of the past history. We always kind of go through the FUD too as well. So, yeah, looks good.
Okay, so guys, XDC is primarily built for banks and enterprises, right? Um, and I think that that's an indicator of longevity of this project, right? Banks care about compliance, they care about trailable audits, they care about identity, as well as predictable costs. And XDC was designed with those priorities in mind. So the network, they use a hybrid architecture. I don't even know if I brought that up, but they use a hybrid architecture, and that basically allows transparency where it's required and privacy where it's demanded. And that's very important in trade finance, right? We talk all the time about public and private, right? Public and private. But that matters a lot in trade finance because there's some information that has to be public while other details have to remain confidential. So XDC is not fighting regulations, they're not fighting compliance, but they operate within existing financial rules and frameworks. Yes, today, not even what's going to be implemented, but as of today, they operate inside of existing financial rules and frameworks. So that makes it very realistic for institutional adoption rather than projects that are trying to bypass that oversight of regulation and compliance. What do I have? Yeah, I do have it. It's hybrid blockchain, right? And the key features of it is basically transparency, privacy, and scalability. But it allows the clientele of it to kind of get the benefit of both worlds for it. And I think that what is important also to discuss about XDC is that it is a settlement asset, right? But it's kind of dependent upon within a certain lane, right? It's only inside of the trade finance flows. That's the only time that it's a settlement asset, right? It's not going to be global money. It's not going to replace Swift. It's not trying to be like a bridge currency. But XDC is settling value that is related within trade finance, especially for invoices and trade obligations and things like that. And it's any platform that's actually built on top of the XDC network. So XDC is a settlement asset, but it's only within that trade finance aspect of it. I think I'm about ready to go into some adoptions and some integrations.
Yeah, I mean, um, some of the first things that caught my eye, and you guys are gonna laugh, but when I see on their website, you just go to their website, xdc.org, you can see Securitize at the bottom. Securitize is going to be one of those major players that handles all of these asset managers, and it is a central hub that has been kind of in the middle of all of the BlackRock and RWA tokenization of the world. So when I see big names, I obviously want to verify those large claims. And, since I pay attention to Securitize and XDC and a host of other utility tokens, it can be easy to vet. So Securitize is massive, guys. Like some of the things that, we're talking about is, you know, hundreds of trillions of dollars in terms of the market. And if they're going to actually bring everything on chain, then exactly what XDC is doing or what their potential use case is and what they're actively doing plays a massive role in that. But again, for me, I like seeing all of the pieces fit together when you look at TradFi and you say, how can we improve and innovate that? Which has kind of been the messaging from XDC. And Circle, Circle's another big name. Talking about the DeFi integration, Archax, if that's how you say it, RKX, I think it's RKX. But there's a lot of these partnerships because working together in an omni-chain, multi-chain world is exactly how all of this gets done. It's not all, they might be siloed in their use cases, but for at least from what is available to us, they're all going to work together and serve different purposes. So, Caveman, got any other use cases or potential
Can we go
partnerships?
back? Can we go back with just one step?
Sure.
Because of what you just said. I'm sorry, guys. The two co-founders, Atul Kakade and the other gentleman is, I forget his name right now, but Atul Kakade is the reason why I wanted to bring him up.
Ritesh.
Thank you. So this guy co-founded TradeFinex. It's a DeFi protocol for trade finance built atop XDC that enables tokenization of traditional trade instruments like, and I saw it in the chat, so this is why I'm bringing it up, bills of lading, letters of credit, warehouse receipts. I just wanted to tell, I can go into like the rest of his, you guys can if you want, but I wanted for the community to share a little bit of a story. I've said once or twice. One of my friends is a guy named Andrew Nichols. I'm talking about him because he's out there. You guys can look at him. He was one of the early investors in and on the board of directors for Crocs, the shoe you guys wear. For some reason, blows my mind. Not the point. Point is, it's super successful. And we were at a hockey game, and I went to Andrew. And I said, Andrew, like, why the hell? Like, what do you think about crypto? And like, do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? And the one thing he said to me, and this was like 2 years ago, was the use case for blockchain is absolutely paramount for big business. And this is literally what he was talking about. So when you guys are reading like things like XDC and specifically TradeFinex, to be able to monetize every step of the way and to have it absolutely succinct is what big business and medium-sized businesses are striving for. So that for me is the bull case for a project like XDC. I'm going to mute myself.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I mean, so I sent you a link, Bully, from what I could find, talking about TradeFinex. First thing I see, an ISO 222 compliant non-custodial protocol for trade finance. If you want to scroll down, there you go. Supported partners like USDC Circle, BitGo, Fireblocks, Singapore Trade Trust Network, Anchorage. There's a lot of familiar faces here again, R3 Corda. So again, partnerships, alliances, I think, maybe a cycle or two ago, they didn't matter, but they, things from the past have a funny thing of kind of repeating. I mean, look at SBI Holdings was another one that I saw, and we don't need to talk about how large they are, but the projections here are, tens and tens of billions, if not trillions of dollars flowing into these networks. I get it. It might not feel like it right now in today's day and age, but we're looking at the macro of what these things will potentially do in the future, given that it is, better than what it is now, right? So, thank you.
Yeah, if I could jump in with TradeFinex, I think that this is probably one of the clearest examples of XDC's real world, utility or use. So this is specifically built for trade finance, right? So this TradeFinex, they essentially help these SMEs, these small, medium-sized enterprises and businesses. They help them connect to banks, right? And they use blockchain to verify data, but also by doing that, it reduces the risk and it speeds up the funding for these businesses. And this is trade infrastructure. This is real infrastructure here. I think that this is probably one of the most exciting aspects of it. And as we could see here, right, you also have R3 Corda involved. And banks are already using DLT technology. They're already utilizing R3 Corda. And XDC is not coming in to challenge any of these public or private systems, right? But it is designed to kind of coexist. We always say that this is not a one chain to rule them all, but it's a multi-chain future. So they are designed to coexist and kind of interoperate with a lot of these enterprise ledgers. So essentially, in terms for the banks, right, the banks are more likely to adopt a technology that complements what the banks are already doing in their average day-to-day, rather than trying to rebuild something completely from scratch. So this is probably one of the biggest integrations that we have seen with them as well. But there is a lot of them. And we can see here, right, RWAs, right? We have Circle in here, Contour, TradeFinex RWA yield pool. There is a lot that's going on. In terms of the RWAs, I don't believe that they have much on there. I think when I went on RWA.xyz, and not that that's updated, often, but I think I only saw like 6 million on there. Right?
Yeah. So, and again, I think a lot of that might have to do with U.S. regulations, kind of maybe looking towards January for clarity. Um, one of the, I think I saw this. I don't know. I had reshared it, and looking into it again, it's when you look at something two, three times, you just kind of see more and more. I sent you a link with that MiCA compliance too. You got to realize that because this is all a global future that we're looking at here, and everything kind of working together, but having its own, there will be their own regulatory bodies that are associated with this stuff. Um, I mean, BlackRock, Fidelity, State Street, Aberdeen are tokenizing money market funds on the XDC network. So it's interesting to me that you don't see that on RWA .xyz. But yes, I mean, looking at $16 trillion of valuation for the space, not XDC, but for the space by 2030. Exactly.
Yeah. Another thing that I had found was the ICC, right? This is the International Chamber of Commerce. And essentially, this is kind of showing the institutional focus on trade finance through the performance and the transparency aspect of it. And this is important because when you're looking at why trade finance, why the modernization of trade finance is relevant or so dire to upgrade, you got to be looking at what the ICC is actually also talking about as well. So look, there are a lot of things that we can dive into. We're trying to just focus on some of the biggest indicators of why this is an official real world source, and why these are certain things to be looking at. Did you find much on R3 Corda, right? R3 Corda with XDC?
There was a lot of information coming out in 21 and 22. And looking at that stuff now, you can see, R3 Corda is, they're partnering with a lot of places, right? And I love that R3 Corda is already, compliant with where things are headed. So, but go ahead, I see you got the document there, so.
Yeah, so R3 Corda is already kind of being adopted with banks, right? But puzzle time. We know that banks are really focused on this private blockchain systems like R3 Corda. That's exactly what it is. R3 Corda is not a public chain, right? It's a controlled environment. But they've also had a lot of tests with SBI, right? R3 Corda and SBI are kind of, are integrating in as well. And SBI was kind of testing, can a private blockchain system like Corda talk to a public hybrid system like what the XDC is? And they wanted to see if the private chain as well as the hybrid can work together to see if they can be utilized for real business settlement. So yes, the answer was yes. And since they were able to do that, they were able to basically put the trade data on the private system, but it can also connect to the public settlement rails. And they were able to do that without breaking compliance, which was huge. And it's just another indicator that XDC is not out here to replace the banks, but it's here to kind of connect them. And then you were speaking on the MiCA compliance. The MiCA is the European's crypto regulation framework, right? So we want to focus on projects that have longevity, things that can survive regulations and can survive with compliance. And this MiCA crypto alliance is a group within Europe, and they're primarily focused on standards, compliance, and regulatory regulations. So when XDC comes in and joins this, it's not saying, we're approved, but what they're saying is we want to play by the rules and be a part of this regulatory environment, this regulatory conversation. And I think that matters because Europe is very strict. Europe is very strict with their regulations and their compliance. And the institutions, let's be honest, guys, if this is your first time here, the institutions are not they don't want to touch non-compliant technology. They just don't. Compliance, we're going to pound that into your head every single time you come on this live, because alignment with the compliance and the regulations is going to beat any kind of theology or ideology or rebellion against the regulated finance. If you can't beat them, you got to join them. So XDC, this is them choosing longevity and legitimacy over your retail narrative and your retail hypes. There was probably a few more that I wanted to touch into. Deutsche Telekom. XDC and Deutsche Telekom. So this one was probably one of the Deutsche Telekom is one of the largest telecom companies in the world. And they run these massive infrastructures. They have network servers, cloud systems and things. And they are starting to integrate in with Web3, right? And what they are doing is they're running infrastructure, right, for networks that have to be upheld and maintained for the rest of TradeFinex, right? So they actually run a master node with XDC, right? They run a master node with XDC. So I guess in the simplest way, what it kind of does is they are also participating to help keep the network stable. They're ensuring the reliability, and they're acting as backup infrastructure if something actually goes wrong. And that's important, right? And when you talk about institutional onboarding, because that's important because these banks and these enterprises, they care about uptime. They care about reliability. They care about governance. They care about who can we hold responsible if something goes wrong. So Telecom is comfortable running XDC as real infrastructure. That was big. You mentioned Archix as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's see if I can get a quick. So this was big, right? Archix is like what are they? They're a regulated digital asset firm in the UK, I believe, right? They're responsible for a lot of tokenization and things. Archix is held to a higher standard, right? They're responsible for operating their day-to-days in a compliance-heavy environment. They have to abide by the compliance and the regulations. And Archix, we've seen they're starting to tokenize things like funds and securities and all different types of products. So they're using XDC as a blockchain where regulated financial assets can be digitized, tokenized, and actually put on chain. Real infrastructure again, right? And Archix is probably one of the largest, maybe second to Securitize in terms of RWAs coming on chain. I believe they may be one of the second or third or something.
Yeah, if you just go to archix.com. I sent you a link. You just to show the audience here. Again, you see things like Solana, Ethereum, Hedera, the XRPL, you see XDC there too. This is where things are moving, right? And all of these technologies and these protocols are going to, again, integrate together and look at the solutions that they're offering. So you have to understand that this isn't like magic internet money, right? It has to have a use case of what it is actually being used for, and then why those things might even be relevant for you. Um, and I know currently at this day and age, there's always something that's bigger, better. So when you look at like RWA.xyz or you look at the TVL on DeFi Llama, you might say, they're not moving a lot. Um, and I always, I like the companies that align with, you know, the compliance, the certifications, the things that are needed. Doesn't mean that that's not what these things are capable of in the future. So, continue on. I just wanted to show that.
I think maybe very briefly another thing that we could maybe focus on was XDC 2.0. This was not a different coin. This was basically just kind of an upgrade to the XDC network, and they made a lot of improvements for it. Right? They made faster finality, better scalability. They improved the security. Thank you for the follow. They also increased the smart contracting tooling for the developers. So they were basically just upgrading it, right? And they did all of this without actually breaking the network, right? There was no restart, there was no new chain, there's no new coin. Don't look for XDC 2.0 to invest in. But it was a big thing that they were able to do. I don't know. Are you?
We talk about we talk about stable coins and like how much this is going to affect whichever networks or protocols are hit on there. And when we talk about the institutions, right? Like they're in the benefit of efficiency, cost efficiency. So just because stable coins might pump through the network, we want to just let you know right now that that doesn't mean that, oh my God, the price is going up. It doesn't pump the price. But XDC is required for gas and for the validators. And it's all about activity, man. And it's all about network effect. So you see these organizations and these companies that align with where probably most of that money is going. It can be very bullish in the macro sense as things continue to go along. But again, we can't always look at what these things are good at. Like, what are maybe some bad things if we want to go down that road? If not, we can continue and talk about partnerships, because I feel like they've been around a while, 2017, 2018, so they've got plenty, tons.
Caveman, is there anything you'd like to jump in on?
Do you want to talk about tokenomics?
I can't believe we didn't discuss that. Yeah.
38 billion, I know that.
Volume is low, right?
Correct.
Which doesn't surprise me, but yes. So it started off as Zinfin back in the day, right? That's what XDC used to be called.
Yes.
And then 2017, or was it 17 or 19? They rebranded it to XDC.
It was 2019.
And then created the foundation as well.
The foundation was set up. Here, I'll read it directly from their page. La, 2021. In the Cayman Islands. In the Caymans.
In the Caymans?
In the Caymans.
In the fucking Cayman Islands?
Okay, so as it stands right now, your change is right. It is 37 billion. The circulating supply is 17 to 18 billion. The founders currently have 40% of it. So they have 15 billion. The ecosystem has 10 billion. Early investors have 10 billion, and the treasury has 2.5 billion. You guys have been on our streams enough to know what that treasury has, why it has that allocation. It is to help the ecosystem grow. So that is the tokenomics behind XDC right now.
Now, this company is headquartered in Singapore, so just keep that in. That's a huge hub. for a lot of this. So continue on with tokenomics if you like.
I mean that's predominantly it. I have not much more to add. Just for people who don't know, like Singapore is a massive, like it's one of those places, like we talked about last week. It's one of those places that if you can get approval to operate as a fintech out of Singapore, you pretty much have made it. It's short of the New York one, which you're gonna say again, bully. I always forget it.
What am I gonna say?
The New York one, the one that Ripple got.
Oh, the
New York
NYDFS?
Department of Financial Service.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put that on a
NYDFS.
sticky note. I'm gonna put that on a sticky note and put it on my computer.
We need like a soundboard.
Ding.
I actually didn't know that Singapore was difficult to obtain.
Yeah.
I know that they're very progressive with their blockchain integrations and adoptions, but I didn't know it was difficult to actually thrive there.
Isn't that where Apex was?
Yeah, they're based out of Singapore. Mm-hmm.
You heard what I said, Apex, right?
I did.
Okay. For those of you guys that don't know, that's the huge tech hackathon product unveiling for the XRPO. It's a huge convention. They do it every year, don't they? Yeah, they do it every year.
Yeah, I think it's moving to stateside though next year.
Well, that's good. At least they're not. At least they weren't stateside, and then we're like, oh no, I'm leaving. Right? And they're like, oh, we'll come there. So that's nice.
Back on the rails.
Maybe. Do you guys have any questions? What other project is doing what XDC is doing?
Yeah, that's
a good question.
That is a good one. They do have some competitions, but I'm not necessarily sure that it's that is one of the cons to it. I don't necessarily know that it's a project, but they do have some existing systems that it does compete with. So the banks, they already have these private DLTs, they have internal processing, and these legacy systems, right? XDC, they have to integrate them, right? They're not trying to dominate them, but they have to integrate in with them. And the competition could slow the growth of this network, but I'm not sure that there's a project out there that has it. But there are existing systems that are trying to modernize the trade finance.
I think it's going to be a network effect. That's what I think. When you guys are, I mean, if you're looking for the answer about payment or liquidity tools, things that come up obviously are going to be Ripple, XRP. Interoperability for enterprises, Quant is one of them. I mean, technically speaking, a competitor.
Stellar.
Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say about the liquidity? Caveman?
Sorry?
What were you saying about the liquidity?
I may have said liquidity, but I meant interoperability for enterprises.
He's ill. He's ill, guys.
Yeah. Sorry. So I mean, reality is the real competition for a project like this, in my opinion at least, and only my opinion, is Father Time. I think because this project has to actually see, like, big businesses and medium businesses, they operate very slowly. The change takes time. And so that's what they're really up against, in my opinion.
Yeah. The banks test things for years before they actually fully deploy them. And a lot of like bills of lading, a lot of trade finance, day-to-day things, they're still done by paper. They haven't even digitized these things. So we see how slow they're actually moving. The progress, it could feel very slow and boring for a long time, but take a look at what it is that they're integrating in with and the dire need for trade finance to get that upgrade take XDC and try to find a competitor out there. There may be another better competitor out there, but I think tonight we're trying to show you that trade finance is such an old dinosaur, and there's this dire friction point to modernize that and upgrade that. XDC is one solution for that, but it's just another use case or utility out there in the real world that has to be upgraded, and they're looking at DLT to upgrade that.
Yeah, like let's take for an example, your manufacturer is trying to ship something and, you want to make sure that it gets delivered and makes it to the port. I mean, all of these things are going to work in a cohesion, right? With smart contracts. I mean, I think honorable mentions in terms of like competition. I mean, you have to put Ethereum out there. You have to put Avalanche out there. But again, I'm of the firm belief that, since only 7% of the world's population has even any kind of exposure to this, that it would make sense to, believe in a lot of, different narratives and different use cases that these companies are striving for. How that ultimately plans out, I mean, we keep an eye on it, right? That's the whole point of what it is that we're doing, is to look into it all and to try and see. And we also hear the comparisons like, oh, the protocols. Well, the protocols that are used the most are probably going to benefit long term. So, but I agree with what Caveman said. How long that takes, anyone's guess.
Yeah, the adoption could be slow. I would say, and this could either be a pro or a con to it, but it is a settlement asset, right? Which we like because the liquidity, the demand will actually affect the token price. But it's not a global settlement asset. It settles value only within trade finance workflows. That's it. But it is an upside because it is tied to the trade finance adoption, right? Not the global adoption. So we see that trade finance has this urgency to adopt, right? And one would assume that if trade finance does modernize and kind of grow year over year over year, that this ecosystem could benefit to that. But I like that it is a settlement asset, but it's only within a particular lane.
Guys, I forgot we didn't say this at the beginning, and I apologize. I normally do. Guys, we're not doing this to just a friendly reminder. If you haven't been here before and this is your first time, we're not here to try to pitch XDC. Be the Change and I both know Quincy. He's a great guy. He's super freaking smart. But we have no affiliation with XDC. We're not trying to tell you to buy XDC. We are simply here for the utility of XDC and to talk about it, to start the conversation in projects like XDC. And that is the only reason we're doing this show. So if you feel convicted, then do it. If you don't feel convicted, don't. But the research is still very important. So that's what we're doing.
100%. And again, 157 people in here. Thank you so much. As we said in the beginning, this is a community kind of project here, right? If it was voted on, multiple people wanted to hear about it. Hopefully they're here and they're learning something, right? I know that, again, like I said, just the second set of eyes looking at this article from RCX and looking into it even deeper gives me a better perspective and better understanding from what I had from prior knowledge. Me being here for several years, I looked into XDC. I saw it actually as a competitor to Ripple. So you're going to notice a trend here. But I wanted to have diversification in a lot of those areas, because if it was all about utility and usage, then and not just about when moon, then it was one of those ones that made it to my list, right? And from a performance standpoint, like, sure, it's not anywhere near XRP, but that doesn't mean it can't grow. It doesn't mean it doesn't have potential, and it's always been one of my like silent hopefuls, right? Like rooting for the underdog. But yeah, man, you got to do it on your own. And all of the people that are here, we appreciate you for tuning in on a Sunday night.
Yeah, I think that if you guys are interested in some of the projects that we do cover, we are a shortcut for you guys. You know, when we start talking about, TradeFinex or RChex, these are things for you to write down and for you to extend the research into that and actually see what's going on. We could discuss it a little bit and show you what is going on. But we're here to find the breadcrumbs out there and put it together and kind of offer it to you. It's up to you guys as an educated investor to dive deeper into the project if you so wish. I think that that's probably one of the biggest things of this show is that we are finding some of the inefficiencies and the friction points that's happening in trade finance, and we're also finding something that is claiming to be the solution. And then it's up to you guys to sit there and say, well, maybe it could be successful, maybe it can't be successful. All we could do is present the information to you guys, make you guys critically think about the project, right? We talk about the pros, we talk about the cons, we give you the overview, we show you the compliance, the regulations, the partnerships, the integrations. But ultimately, it's up to you guys as an educated investor to say, this project's for me or this project ain't for me. The one thing that I will say about XDC, if trade finance continues to stay stuck in paper, then XDC is going to be stuck, right? But if trade finance digitizes, tokenizes, and modernizes just even a little bit, I think that a project like XDC could be very important. And I think that that's kind of, when you're trying to find these longevities, it's also important to find out like how the real world finance works, what these crypto projects are claiming to solve, and whether or not it could be a successful investment, or a successful project. But we are trying to show you guys like these are the problems that's going on in the world. Here is the solution. Could this be a successful solution? If so, I think that the most successful investments out there are the ones that solve that friction point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and I love having this type of conversation, especially when it's interactive. You have to kind of expand on your thought process on where these things can go. Obviously, not looking at it pie in the sky, like it's 20 years down the road. But we've seen technology, we've seen things play out. It's already almost 2026, right? Like time is flying. So, before you know it, C19 6 years ago almost, right? And it's definitely crazy to think that. But when I look at these potentials here, sure, there's a lot of people out there talking about, well, it's only Bitcoin or it's only Ethereum, and that's the only thing that will ever be. There's a lot of money flowing. There's a lot of institutions joining, but there is an agreement among I would say nation states that see this as an efficiency, right? When it comes to the entire network and just kind of crypto, blockchain technology as a whole, these digital assets all serve purposes. And when you look into things that the US is doing, like the Genius Act, or you look into the Clarity Act and you actually try and understand fundamentally where some of these things might end up, and how they might be regulated, because again, you don't move $100 trillion, you don't move tens of or hundreds of billions of dollars and it just be completely unregulated. It has been happening that way, but you're going to probably see things shift and change. And we've all had our, man, I wish I bought Bitcoin when it was $10 or $100. There was a time when Bitcoin was the exact price of what XDC is. So just give that, some food for thought too as well when you are making those decisions. Port says, does XDC have an active ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pulling up developer report. I don't know if this is updated, but 5 full-time devs, 15 active monthly devs, 370 repos. It looks like 2023 was one of their primary years, and it looks like they're bleeding developers, right? Absolutely bleeding developers. So that is something to consider as well.
Really good question.
That was a really good question. Yeah, guys, I mean, TradeFinex, right? It's the system that's moving the world, right? They're moving real goods, real businesses, and supply chains. And without that, you have shelves go empty, right? Everything that you need from the stores, they go empty. Factories shut down, economies suffer from it. I mean, take a look at what happened to CV19, right? With TradeFinex, and it's boring, right? It's a slow upgrade. It's not necessarily an exciting thing that they have to solve, but it's one of those systems that doesn't get replaced overnight, right? If there is a real solution and it works, they hold on to it. And it's infrastructure. XDC is behaving the way that any infrastructure project does, right? It's slow, it's boring, but it's enterprise focused. So there's a lot of things that's about it that you may not find attractive, but the institutions certainly do, right? With the Deutsche, right? With the Deutsche Telekom, right? They're running infrastructure. You have Archex. They're tokenizing real financial products. Donnie. SBI, right? You have all these other proof of concepts with R3 Corda. There's a lot that's going on with this project where the institutions do see a benefit to it. That's up to you to decide if you see one.
Bleeding developers would mean that they're losing developers on their network, potentially to go elsewhere. More money.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for fast gratification, then XDC is going to disappoint you. If you need constant excitement, XDC is going to disappoint you. If you want a narrative that's going to change every week, XDC is going to disappoint you. But if you understand how the financial world actually upgrades itself through pilots, they do it carefully, they're very slow, they do it through regulation and institutional trust, then XDC becomes very attractive to you. This is betting on XDC is a bet on global commerce having this need to have modern rails. That's your bet, you know. That's your bet. And if XDC continues to do what it does, if it stays in the lane of digitizing trade, if it stays in the lane of improving the cash flow or reducing the risk or modernizing how the businesses get paid, even tokenization of invoices and things like that, then that's your bet on it, right? And we see that they have been receiving clarity, right? And that's important. You got to pay attention to the regulations and the compliance. I think that when you do pay attention to it through this lens, it's almost an indicator of what can survive, right? Clarity is a strength. Regulatory approval, that's a strength. That's not a weakness. So if you're looking for that long-term investor mindset, these are the things we got to be paying attention to.
Yeah, and it's a good point, you know, and I was mentioning it before, like the Clarity Act, the Genius Act. I mean, these things is where, you know, the SEC and the CFTC get in that involvement, right? And Bully hit it on the head. All of the things that it is built for is how the CFTC views digital commodities. You need to look at that and understand and pay attention to, you know, why things that are focused on settlement, things that are focused on tokenization are likely going to be falling under the CFTC classification, and that in and itself will look a little bit different, right? And it is about usage. You can't have you know, obviously we have to see what the Clarity Act actually says once it's finally law. But at this current stage, you know, it literally like mirrors what the Clarity Act is, right? And mirrors what a digital commodity would be. So that's definitely something to pay attention to. Because the CFTC has been talking about tokenized collateral assets, settlement token. I mean, just everything and above is what you've seen, what XDC has been talking about for years. So echoing it from years past till today, might want to take it seriously.
Speaking of tokenization, did you guys talk about Brazil?
There's something really important there. I'm losing it.
Okay,
there's something really important there.
You know how we talk about hash, right? 17 billion in personal credit. So Brazil's Verde Capital had partnered with XDC Network to do $1 billion in private credit. So not just private credit, but private credit, and receivables. So this is, man, the private credit world is going to be an absolute juggernaut in the tokenization RWA space.
That's actually really important to talk about, right? This was almost a bet or a promise that they were, they have plans to tokenize up to $1 billion of debt and receivables on the XDC network. So $1 billion. If we go over to rwa.xyz and we take a look at where XDC is right now, whether or not this is updated, you're going to laugh at this. Look, 6.7 million. So think of the growth. I don't know if 6.7 is accurate. I don't think so, because when you take a look at who's actually tokenizing on there, I mean, I don't even know if you see RChex on here. You have Securitize, but I don't see RChex in there as well. So this is definitely not updated. But regardless of wherever it's at, from, let's even say, even if it was 100 million, a promise to grow to a billion in RWAs on chain by 2030, I believe they said, is as part of the deal, the firms will move financial instruments on chain over the next 30 months. So whether or not they do obtain that deal or that promise, I mean, you're talking about growth from wherever they're at now to $1 billion in 30 months. Something to talk about.
Yeah, and I just want to address what Chilwell said. So, I mean, just looking this up, there are a lot of fake scammers. Basically, scammers are real, but the ads are fake, right? Targeting XDC users. And to me, that's not uncommon, especially since XDC is one of those ones where you'll see a lot of it in Singapore. You'll see a lot of articles that would come from that would give some crazy false engagement. People click on it, and then it doesn't end up working out. Scammers are going to attack all kinds of places where people will congregate that will be looking to invest that money. That's why, if you were paying attention to the last show, like, it's incredibly important to make sure that you are double, triple checking, quadruple checking, for whatever reason, whether it's your own suspicion or what. Like, you can't ever just trust. Like, if it sounds too good to be true, guys, it most probably is. When I first looked up XRP many years ago, like, one of the first things I saw was, click here and get 100,000 XRP, right? And I'm like, that's fake, right? But you click on it, and and you find out where it's from, and it was clearly not in the United States. And just got to be careful, guys. So I appreciate you there, Chillwell, for that.
Caveman, are we ready to move on to questions?
To be honest, there's no questions. We've been answering them as they go. Guys, if you have any questions in chat, please ask them now. Guys, out of curiosity, while we're waiting for any questions to come through, what is your personal, after reading what you've read and knowing what you know, what's your personal take on XDC?
I'll go first. I think that it's a bet, right? You're kind of betting that global trade is eventually going to modernize their financial plumbing. If your answer to that is no, then XDC stays where it's at now. If your answer to that is yes, then a project like this could be very important. It doesn't have to take over the world, but it just needs a seat at that table.
Yeah, I mean, I like it is there were so many inherently, like, these projects, at least in the 20, back in the day, these are the use cases, right? and understanding like where this company has gone, seeing them really even though there's a bit of a competition between like what it is that they're doing with like Ripple and the XRPL, I see it being and especially since it's so connected, well connected. For me, it's one of those ones where I am not expecting anything insane out of it. But if it does happen, then I wouldn't be surprised just because of what we've been talking about, right? There's that, well, it's going to take years and years and years for this to happen. And sometimes, uh, we undercut it, right? We undercut how fast the growth is, how much is potentially already implemented, how long these things have been, you see how long it's been 10, 15 years. So, for me, I think it will be a multi-chain world. And sure, there's going to be a lot of new ones that'll pop up, but anything that's been centered around solving global problems always gets a second or third look from me. So um, XDC is something that I've been holding for years and got in since 2023. So yeah,
My answer is a little more succinct. When you meet the dev team, and they are who they are, and have been there for a very long time, and do the real work every single day, I'd bet on those people every single time. Every single time. And if you have met them, you would say the same exact thing. Because those people, as one in particular, he's not there to f around. So that I can absolutely assure you, and he has the respect of the entire industry. So
Somebody asked a great question. They said, why wouldn't they just create their own stablecoin instead of using USDC? And I think because creating a stablecoin is it's hard. It's much harder. It's much riskier than using a regulated stablecoin that already exists, especially within trade finance. So I think it's just why break it if it's not broken? Maybe they do that in the future. Who knows? But as of right now, I think they're just focusing on adoption and sitting at that table rather than, who knows, maybe in the future they will.
it's not so much that it's also just hard. It's also that the liquidity problem, right? Like you can create a stablecoin, but it doesn't mean there's going to be any liquidity in there. So that's the important thing. Like for a chain to just say, "Hey, I'm going to do my own stablecoin," not great. Whereas USDC, it's everywhere. So,
yeah,
um,
and you've got, I mean, not for nothing, but SBI Global being a part of them is not small change.
yes, that kind of ties in with what you were just talking about. Thanks, Webb. Appreciate that. Um, and somebody asked, does XDC have a partnership with R3 Corda? Not only does it have a partnership with R3 Corda, but it also, through SBI, has a partnership with R3 Corda Japan, which is another branch of R3 Corda. So yes, that is your answer. Double yes.
Securitize, RHAX,
Mhm.
I mean, big list.
Guys, someone asked, they may have been early to or late to the show. Somebody asked, what is a niche for XTC?
Trade finance, supply chain. It's really what their big winner use cases.
Yeah, supply chain would be my answer.
Agreed.
Somebody asked XTC versus VeChain. They do both go after supply chain and tokenization and digitization of it. That might be a tough one to answer, to be honest.
Yeah, VeChain is I think going to do a lot of other things too. XDC's done. It's been 8 years.
We should
Okay.
call them and let them know.
Yeah. You know, sometimes people end the relationship after 8 years, 10 years. Sometimes they never do.
Mom, Dad, you're getting a divorce.
And I think one of the things that we should talk about is, some people say that because this was like a proof of concept since 2021, that they no longer are formalized with it or they could disclude it. These proof of concepts, they have to be formally closed. If you could find evidence that this proof of concept was formally closed, please send that over to me and I'll look into it. But to say that, something from 2021 that's 5 years old, that in and of itself doesn't disclose what it is that they actually did. You would have to find that the proof of concept was formally closed or that there was a rival to it. And I've had back and forths with XDC and R3 Corda that R3 Corda was doing Solana to do the same thing that XDC is. It's not. You got to go beyond the headlines. You got to look into the meat and potatoes of what is actually going on within the ecosystem. But just because something is outdated doesn't mean that it's irrelevant or not necessary. Anything else, ladies and gentlemen?
Just a real quick one. This is, again, I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on this one, but just for the person down there who asked this question, XDC is built for money and contracts for supply chain. VeChain is built for the data and the goods. And then we'll go through and if you guys got anything more you want to talk about, if not, I'm all ears.
I think we bashed him in the head with this one.
I half expected him to be like this in the bed, like with this blanket.
I just wanted to say thank you, guys. Thank you for pulling up the slack on this one. I apologize.
I tried to say the things you say, I tried.
Yeah. Why XDC, sir, is the question. Why did we choose XDC for today? We didn't choose XDC. You guys did. And thank you for choosing it. Every week we get to choose a different project. That project is a list of utility projects, things that actually have real world applications and have a slate of requirements needed. And we're not looking for meme coins or pump fund coins or anything like that. We did do ZBEC. If you guys want to look at earlier shows, you can go to Blockchain Bully's YouTube account. If you look at the top left, it looks exactly like that, but it's on YouTube. So just go to YouTube and you can see the show on ZBEC.
Welcome in, Harlem Prince. Appreciate you for being here.
Link is in the bio. Okay, so while we're just down a little bit, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Guys, for next week, we every week we give it to you guys. Which token would you like us to do next week? Just put one. We don't need a
go.
list.
December 28th, guys.
We just need a list.
Gold. I love gold.
Wormhole. Also, Canton.
Are you not entertained?
XLM. SHX. 2 for SHX. LCX.
We did do Quant, guys. If you do want to see the episode for Quant, that is on YouTube. We did Quant. We did Chainlink. We did Algorand. We did HBAR. We did ZBEC.
VeChain, I like it. I'm seeing a lot of Stronghold. I'm seeing we already did Link. Did we do Link? We already did Link, right? Yeah.
This is Caveman's hardest job of the night, is trying to read all the comments and see which one he's seen.
Condo. Velo.
Want part two?
We've got Ondo on here a couple of times. We've got SHX on here a lot. Like 4 times.
I got it. I'm actually doing it.
Canton twice. Oh, World Liberty Financial.
What's the? I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
I don't know. Bitcoin. I
You
am
take your money.
Todd. What else?
That would actually be a funny episode, Bitcoin.
I'd probably push back on you, to be honest, Bully.
That would make it very interesting.
Oh, dude, I would be the biggest Bitcoin maxi you've ever seen.
You would?
Oh yeah, dude, I'm pulling out the fucking chains. I'm fucking talking to you guys like this the whole time, bro.
I can't look at you. I'm just excellent.
Solana, loan,
XLM.
narrow.
I
You
want to do
can't go
Solana so bad.
Could we narrow it down to Ondo? But I don't know.
Okay, we're gonna have to have a fight. Hyper or not hyper? SHX. Ondo.
All right, so it's really simple. The guys, it's between these three.
And we can't have done it already.
No, I know. Now, chat. We're gonna ignore everything you say except for vote on these three: Canton, XLM, or SHX. And that's not me. This is you. There's the proof in the pudding right there.
I can't tell if you were writing Ondo down enough.
I did. All right, Ondo has 2.
Oh dang! Look at this.
Tons of XLMs flooded in.
Boom. Oh, dude.
SHX is a great project too. I think. I don't know. You seeing what I'm seeing?
Guys, we're gonna have to. One of the moderators got to keep. You just be like, "Yo, dude."
All donations will be donate. All gifts will be donated to music history.
Okay, XLM.
Yeah.
XLM, baby. Let's go.
XLM. Stellar Network.
The Stellar Network.
And guys, for those of you guys who want to see a project, don't worry. We're eventually going to get to it. We're not going anywhere.
We're not going to do all 10,000 or whatever there are on CoinMarketCap. We're only focused on the ones that are about utility, you know?
This one's going to be interesting, XLM.
Those better not be sour apple.
They are assorted citrus flavor.
I will post XDC. I will post it this. I'll probably end up posting it after Christmas, but it will be this upcoming week. I won't hold you guys too long for that. Christy, thank you so much for that donation. That will be sent over to that family.
Sorry, someone just said something. Narrow. Something about live connections.
He's happy. He's a happy camper. We're doing XLM.
Okay.
I like that one. I like XLM.
So do I. I don't have my XLM anymore. It's gone. I was gonna make a joke, but I won't.
Yep. Don't
voluntarily.
Don't even.
You weren't standing this whole time, were you? Okay, you're in a chair. I was like, this guy was standing sick.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Bully, you did phenomenal. You've been live for hours again. What a stud. You are younger, so keep going. You got many, many more years of this to go. Guys, thank you so much for being here. I mean, 140 people. I think at the peak we had like 200. We do it for you. That's the whole point of this show. And we don't not trying to tell you what to get, right? What to buy, what to spend your money on. We're just trying to help you understand, because it is difficult to adequately do your research. So maybe we can give you guys some seeds and it'll cultivate it. Always think don't listen to that guy. I'm going to try and prove him wrong, right? And then come back next week and let us know what you found out. So we appreciate you guys for being here. Bully, Caveman.
Thank you, Change. Is it okay if I disconnect you?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thanks, brother. Great job tonight, man. You did a kick-ass job.
You're a beast.
You both did. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Caveman, you good?
I'm good.
Feel better, brother. Thank you so much for tonight, man.
Appreciate it.